to cloud. So welcome to another episode of US Yoginis. I want to welcome Kate Litwinko, Mia Togo, and myself, Zephyr Wildman.
Yay.
So this week, we decided to connect and talk about our experience in lockdown, what COVID has done to our yoga practice, our yoga teaching, what we're perceiving in our clients, looking at working with trauma, processing, and offering some support in ways of healing, and hopefully a way of connecting and trusting in the managing of the unmanageable in our lives. So I wanted to just welcome whoever wants to step in first and share their experience of kind of what they're working with right now.
I think, well, we were saying a little bit before we started recording this, which I feel is probably a pretty universal feeling with us three anyway, is that we're kind of dealing with this pretty well, and it's actually bringing up stuff that maybe in some way in our busier lives we were like, well, this is just, you know, how we have to live. You gotta hustle a little bit. You gotta be on the tube 5 times a day for you, Zephyr, or drive places. And I think now that we can slow down, us three are seeing that we actually love that. Like, we love to be in the kind of cocoon of our safe workspace, or, you know, maybe just really comfortable with being a bit more introverted and like working by ourselves, or comfortable in our skin. So we're really good with dealing with that sense of like, all right, you know, I don't need to be out and about or distracting myself too much with stuff. But I think for a lot of people, it might be the opposite right now, where the daily distraction of going to work and being busy and all of that is actually in some way therapeutic. Or I think, Mia, you may have mentioned shadow. That's our shadow stuff, or our kind of shadow.
We don't have our shadow comforts readily available.
Our shadow comforts, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really interesting, you know, noticing if you're dealing with the isolation factor as something that's therapeutic to you, and you're like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. I'm not exerting all my energy or pouring all of my energy into something outside. And then, you know, you can almost kind of conserve some energy and feel like you're healing and actually treating yourself gently and really well, versus people who might be feeling the opposite of that, where they miss those shadow comforts. You know, they wish that they had that kind of distraction to prevent all the stuff that purges, you know, when we're just left to our own devices and needing to be at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's so, like, this time of being alone in isolation, I mean, it really depends on where you are. And I think really how it's impacting you as well. I mean, there's people that are obviously fearing for their life, and people that have lost loved ones. I know people personally who have lost loved ones during this and having to deal with all of that, and the fear of that you may get it. So there's that, and the people that are being furloughed and losing their jobs. So their livelihood and their financial stability is being compromised in so many ways. So I think that sense of root chakra, very stable, and what's grounding me has been really, I don't even say shifted, I mean pulled out from underneath us so dramatically. So I think even if it's not impacting you directly or individually, it's impacting the collective, and we're feeling this sort of non-specific anxiety that is, what's next? There's so much uncertainty. So what I have been really sitting with and holding space for with my students and also my coaching clients is that there's this fear that is up, and this trauma of being uprooted that may not even have anything to do logically with what's even going on now, because the echoes of past pain and past sadness and past trauma that have been anesthetized by like the shadow comforts or our busyness, the avoidance, you know, we talk about in the kleshas, is like, ooh, that's being reverberated and amplified in such a big way. So I think really holding that space to say to everyone, it's okay right now to not be okay. It's okay for shit to break apart and come apart. and feeling that loss and feeling the sadness and feeling the grief, and also at the same time holding a space for hope, and that there's so much possibility. And I really believe this is what courage is about. All those warrior poses that we do is cultivating the courage and the bravery to listen to our own patterns and to be accountable for the energy that we are holding. And right now, Mother Earth is saying, everybody needs to stop and slow down and go to your rooms, go to your homes. And what do you need to heal? I mean, this to me is yoga at its essence. The healing needs to happen on the individual. And this is where we hold our own internal violence. Where the voices of shame and guilt and shutdown that we have, all of us in our own way, are needing to heal. And it's going to be different for each person. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just saying, what can we be more responsible for in this time of change and in this time of transition? Because I really do believe I've gone through transformation in my own way through crisis, and it's fucking rough. It's hard. It'll break you down. And it's like, we talked about tapas, like firing a pot, because my dad was a ceramicist. It goes from one form, it's all soft and mushy and pretty, and it goes into the fire, and it is, the heat like nobody's business. And then it comes out the other side, and it's a solid container. It holds something different. And I feel like we're all in the flames right now, and we don't know what it's going to look like. And our sort of conditioned mind wants to have an outcome, or like, I want to go back to normal. It's not going to go back to normal. We don't know. So I think this is a time of creative possibility. And creativity, by its very nature, takes courage, because it means I'm not going to go into the conditioned outcome of what it needs to be, and trust the process and heal what I need to heal and hold space. So if we're holding space for our own struggles in the work that we've done, then we can hold space for other people as they're going through their struggles, not with our imposition, our projections, but holding space with compassion and empathy, and know and trust that as we move through this together, everyone's finding their own journey, their own way, and it's going to look different. That's what I keep seeing. It looks so different, and it's being processed so different for each person. So it's really getting out of the way of there's just no right or wrong. It's okay to not be okay. Take your time, be patient, and I keep going back to Mother Earth. How do you want to mother yourself better? How do you want to come out the other side and go, wow, I need to really be tender with my sweet soul and hold my little girl. I keep holding my inner child every day and going, what do you need, baby girl? How can I love you a little more? How can I hold you with more sweetness? Because I cannot do that for myself. I cannot do it for anyone else. And I feel like that's the unexpected blessing of this time. I think it's a softening, mothering, feminine time in such a profound way.
But don't you find that we're like Kate and both of you are saying is that we're very fortunate that we've been studying this, that we've had therapy, that we've had different tools of understanding the human condition and psychology. And I remember in the beginning, I was saying to people, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And then there was a hilarious meme kind of, coming in, and there was a meme that just so spoke to me, and it kind of just shifted my perspective, kind of going, we are different boats weathering the same storm. And the tools and the construction of this boat, it really is what we've been doing previously and how we are weathering this storm. And some of us don't have the right sails, don't have the right crew, don't have enough resources to be able to keep afloat in this storm. So I find, I think all three of us, from our own perspective and what we have received, we have an opportunity to share the certain techniques, the methodology, the maps, and being able to hold space for people, as you were saying, and give them a kind of a practical way of being able to process and highlight. And I think, this way of communicating and people slowing down and having to slow down, and people are reaching out, trying to find podcasts like this, educational videos, yoga classes, anything to comfort them during this time and give them the right tools to be able to kind of go, okay, how can I sit with my vulnerability? I'm really triggered. Now, what do I do with this? And I think it's really important to share some of the techniques that we use to be able to deal with the shock, the horror of, you know, being stunned by what has happened, but then also because now we're like prolonging this experience, people are becoming more and more traumatized. I've had clients, like every time they hear ambulances now, because the streets are so quiet, they have this massive anxiety surge, or the BBC news alert, the notification, this massive reaction. And it's almost like, you know, you're in flow in your life, and all of a sudden this sensation pulls you into this reaction, and you get re-triggered and traumatized, and we go through this whole process of kind of like, I'm going to drown and this is too much. And so these peaks of anxiety are really high. So trying to give people practical tools to be able to mend their ship, build the resources to be able to kind of navigate as they go forward. So I like that analogy, that we're all different boats, but we're dealing with the same storm, to kind of go, yeah, we're a part of this collective, but some of us have better ships than others. So it's kind of our role to be of service to other people. So I'm glad that we're all kind of here, kind of possibly sharing some techniques and tools to be able to support people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think on that note, Zephyr, something that's been really, I don't know, just coming up for me a lot, and what I've been thinking about goes into also what you were saying, Mia, with this time is actually, although it's really unsettling, that shaking up is a great time to start creative, and sort of shape your destiny how you want it to be, right? So a lot of that, because that personally I can say too, if I hear sirens or something like that, I'll definitely, there's some little thing that gets triggered in me, you know, that it's almost more of a reminder. It's just being reminded that, oh God, yeah, the world's in a pretty vulnerable place right now, or, oh, who's that off to hospital to die or something, you know, something like that. But I think in those times we need to remember that the shaking up, the creative impetus is there, that's actually empowering for us, and can be, you know, when we hear those external sounds, we need to remember that they don't have to take away our empowerment, right? So it's something that's coming into our field of consciousness. We're interpreting it in some way, but we actually have the choice to interpret what's going on however we want. Like fundamentally, that is something that is a human capability. So something I've been practicing a lot recently and been really intrigued by is this idea of bhav, like bhavana, right? This idea that you can create an atmosphere for yourself within a practice, especially, which is such a good place to do it. That's totally your choice. You know, if you want to create an atmosphere of surrender, or I'm giving up my practice to God or consciousness, or no expectations, or something like that. Or if you want to create a surrounding space of love, like breathing in, how would it feel to breathe compassionately right now? Or, you know, how would it feel to imagine you're breathing in love and nourishment for your body? But these sort of creative ways that we have of like shaping our practice and keeping it really open-minded and gentle, a bhavana, or a feeling of gentleness, you know, support. How can I just sit or breathe in a way that's making me feel supported? I think stuff like that is really, really empowering right now. Yeah, personally, that's kind of how, and I think it's kind of accessible, you know, for a lot of people, because it's not something that necessarily has any rules. You can sit and just, you know, almost playfully imagine, what would I like to feel right now? Like it's almost visual or imagery, or however you learn, auditory, kinesthetic, you know, whatever it is. What can you imagine that you would like to feel or sort of cultivate in some way? And I think that's a really beautiful thing that we have time for right now. Just taking a moment to like lie down or sit and shape that kind of imaginative creativity that's coming
Don't
out.
you think though, with majority of people, like we three have the ability to kind of sit like that, but majority
Go
of
into another room and
people are like, if I sit with myself, I'm going to implode. I am going to jump out of my skin and run away. And I think that's where like physical processing, whether it's yoga, whether it's
I was going to talk to, yeah, about that.
but that sense of kind of moving and cathartically releasing to get to that point where you're able to sit in your body with a sense of ease and kind of, but I think a lot of the kind of trauma stuff needs an outlet to be released. And so first of that kind of sense of like, and I do think, you know, to change your psychology, to change your physiology, but also starting to see that pranayama is probably the most therapeutic tool we have to alter how we feel in our body, how our body responds, but also our mind in where it goes. So if we can connect our mind and body through the movement pattern of the breath and cultivate this sense of curiosity and wonderment and explore, but I think majority of people are almost feeling like I need to, I'm in lockdown. I feel like I'm in a prison, but I'm in the prison of my own head. And so I do think, especially for those who are in a small environment, who have kids, who have maybe partners that don't understand their inquiry into kind of the yogic way and lifestyle, that there's conflict. And then, you know, social media is filled with kind of people boozing and getting high and, you know, doing other things like trying to distract, as you were saying. And it's like to sit in your own self, I think can be almost traumatic to have some. So the kind of sense of like, right before of kind of what you were saying, I would suggest like tensing the body. And sometimes when we deal with kind of what my experience of dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, and dealing with trauma, you start from the soles of the feet and go all the way up. So you really kind of tense your feet, tense your ankles, tense your lower legs, and you move the tension up your body, feeling your physical body like holding and squeeze, 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 because it's almost like you're trying to almost contain and feel like a way of processing this heightened sense of kind of craziness. And you hold, and then you hold your breath and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and exhale, and then you release. And you do this tension and relaxation, and you inhale your intention of inhaling calm, and then exhaling ease. And that's another little technique of mentally starting to inform the physical, energetic, and mental layers of the body, the koshas, in the way to respond. And then once that kind of tension and relaxation, it's almost like the body can discharge some of that energy. And then you're able to kind of rest and connect to really what matters to you most. What do you care about? What is your deepest heart's longing? What do you desire? What's your intention? What do you need from your practice to restore you to a state of serenity, sanity, or peace? So I think, you know, we're really lucky that we do have these tools over time to be able to satisfy the physical need, but also the energetic and mental need. So we can actually deepen our kind of connection to the Vijnanamaya Kosha, that wisdom body, to open that curiosity and discernment and kind of go, wow, this is cool. I can actually possibly manifest some stuff that I never thought possible. And I can open to this unlimited wonderment of like, where is this all going? What do I want to create now? But dealing with more of the kind of,
I love that. The physical, the contraction as well. I love to think, and even shaking and stuff like that as well. I love to think of that too as a way that you're welcoming in your true experience. Like, yes, I am feeling like, oh, I just want to scream, or like, I want to let out this anxious kind of energy in some way. And by doing that in your body, you're acknowledging that that's there for you. It's not all about just calm and ease and trying to be like peaceful, man, you know. It's just it's another way to say, no, this is a totally valid experience in itself, and it can kind of coexist with that ability that I have to actually let go of the tension as well. I can bring the tension in and I can release it just as effectively.
I'm going to add something to that. I think totally agree with both of you. Like, we want to release the tension, but every thought we have has a feeling, and a feeling has an energy and a vibration. And so in the past, if we've gone through trauma or wounding or, something that was really difficult, we can hold on to that thought and that feeling. And so when we come into a feeling right now, like in this present time, it can trigger an old feeling that doesn't make any sense. So it's not logical. And I think that's why getting in your body and just shaking and squeezing and rinsing it and releasing that is so active. And I know you guys know the work of Peter Levine. If your listeners out there, read up on Peter Levine's trauma work. And that's something I've been doing for 25 years, is doing rinse. And I've been doing more of it. I mean, I've taken my bat and downstairs and I'm like, fuck this. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, and I'm cry like a little baby. I love my tears. I think right now, this is a time, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to shake it out of your body, shake it out. Why we don't for so long, and so what I've seen for so many people, is because it feels weird. It feels weird and it brings up shame. These are weird times. And this is a time to go break the old shackles of shame. Let your animal howl its howl. And I know it's hard if you have neighbors. I tell my neighbors, I'm like, I work with clients who are actually, just so you know, I have no shame about it, because that's part of releasing what's being held in the body right now, which is triggering and upsetting. But the trigger is really about some of the old feelings and the old energy that's being stuck. So when we're able to release it, we have more of, like you said, Zephyr, that freedom to go, ooh, I'm more open. And I think it's also important to know that fear, because I see this and hear this a lot, it's like my good vibes only. It's like, nope, all vibes, welcome them all. Is that I don't think telling people to be fearless is healthy. I think fear comes with anything creative, and innovation and creativity require fear, because you're going into new territory. It's how you talk to it. It's like, don't kill the messenger because you don't like the message. So I think it's important when you discharge some of those fear voices that are just taking over, or just like, I'm so dysregulated, rinse them, and then go, okay, fear, what do you have to say today? I'm going to listen, because if I can listen once I'm dysregulated, I actually get to change the narrative. I get to invite the ego or the attachment or whatever it is and go, what are you trying to say? Because if I can listen to it, then I can consciously change unconscious holding patterns. And I think the discharging of the upset helps us get more conscious and give it worth, and then also not shut down our fear voices, because I don't know, for whatever reasons, we've been told we need to be fearless. I'm like, no, we have fear for a reason, but we don't want fear to take over. So how do we learn, like, you're saying we all have different boats right now, and everyone's boat, I think this is a cool thing too, is everyone's boat is going to be decorated differently. It's going to be built differently. So my boat doesn't need to look like your boat. I can hold my boat strong and do what I can to support you. But at the end of the day, you have to build your own boat. And that's where the resilience and the bravery stand.
Don't you though, like, so this is a common thing that we've talked about before, is that I've kind of navigated away from having just one teacher. I now have many teachers, and actually who are kind of my greatest teachers right now are the Sangha, my community. Like, to reason things out with people I trust, who are not trying to fix or solve me. Just a place where, I chat to you guys, either together, individually, and I have a handful of other yoga teacher friends, and also Al-Anon friends who are in a 12-step fellowship, where I can let go of the kind of label of Zephyr being the yoga teacher, or Zephyr blah, blah, blah. And I can just be vulnerable and allow me to be messy, allow myself to be muddied, and be able to share without feeling like someone's trying to fix me or solve my problems. It's more about when I open up my own vulnerability and feel safe enough to be able to share some of my shadow stuff, share where I'm struggling. I then all of a sudden have an exchange, and I hear someone else go, yeah, I identify, I hear you, I validate, this is what's going on. And from their vulnerability and their stuff, it's almost like a shared experience, because I can see the divinity in them. And if I can see the divinity in them and their humanity of kind of going, I'm finding it so hard right now, and we can laugh together, we can cry together, it's almost like they are teaching me. It's like a mirrored kind of, I recognize that light within them that I see in myself, in that sense of like, oh my gosh, thank you. You've just shown me. And it's more, I think this whole yoga, this meditation, this way of lifestyle of kind of wakefully being present with everything, the shadow and the light, it's more about addressing, acknowledging, and recognizing what is between me and feeling free, what is between me and being in love, what is between me and feeling serene or content, whatever it is. But what that is between me becomes my teacher. And to be able to share it with you guys, to share it with, you know, people who are open to hear me and not try to fix me, I get more of a kind of like an objective kind of viewpoint and go, wow, that's really interesting. And I think I've said this before, is like, instead of saying, fuck you, I say, thank you. Actually, you've served me. My resistance, my judgment, my criticism, my attachment to certain false belief systems, you know, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and that kind of, by sharing these experiences with you guys and like another Sangha, you know, it's like a collective guruship, a collective light that gets into the darkness, that we can share different aspects. And I feel like we are evolving in that way, because the whole patriarchal kind of spirituality and the ways and the systems, you know, not only in our kind of industry, but in politics, in culture, you know, things are starting to kind of shift. And it's like, how do we want to move forward? And how can we show people it's okay to be not perfect, to be inferior, to be, you know, crazy yogis, but also kind of be like, I got both sides. I'm not pretending to be in this enlightenment retirement. I'm not trying to, you know, so it's been really helpful for me to be honest, because I've been looking for this. I've been looking for, you know, a group of people where I can hold space as being the teacher, but I can hold space of being just a human, really navigating this storm in the best way I can with a different decorated boat.
I love the decorated boat. And I think that that's so important too, Zephyr, because, you know, we've had this conversation on this before. When I started my yoga practice years and years and years ago, I was already working with Mona, who is my teacher. And what I loved about her, because her diversion from psychology and therapy was like, do not fucking guruize me. Do not guruize me. And a lot of yoga teachers worked with her. And she's like, you guys are so, you don't have good vibes or bad vibes. She goes, you guys have no vibes, just no vibes. And we're like, oh, she's like, but it was true. And it's like, stop the guru shit. And she would say, do not put me, the moment you put anyone on a pedestal, it just goes, you're putting yourself down. You've given your power away. And I think that's what yoga keeps teaching us, through the essence and the truth, is come into your own power. And your power, not meaning forceful or aggressive, but how are you comfortable in your own skin? And I think like decorating your own boat and being vulnerable is what I learned from her the most. She showed her vulnerability, and I learned from that. So as a yoga teacher, I've always felt like who I am, and I think this is what I stand by, who I am as a teacher and who I am out in the world and who I am with my husband, and there's just no difference. I will show you all of me. It doesn't mean that I'm in love with all of me, but I also have learned through the process, I have nothing to be ashamed of. I've owned a lot of my shit. So if I can show you my vulnerability and not have to teach you, I'm just holding space, and you go where you need to go. That is your path. And I think what turned me off with yoga so long ago is there was teachers like, you got to do it this way, or you can't laugh, you can't do that. I'm like, no, please. I know myself better than anyone else. And for better or for worse. But the moment that started to go, and I'm like, not my teacher. And I think that's what we get to see broken down now too, is like our vulnerability is our superpower, our self-approval of who we are. It's not out here. And if we can hold space for each other, it's like, I see you, I love you, warts and all, you know what I mean, metaphorically, all of it. I can't do that unless I can do that for myself. And if I'm not in that process of like, I've got my issues, I've got this, I've got that, but I love that part of me. I'm reclaiming. I feel like this is the time that the earth is reclaiming and we're reclaiming. And going back to your helping people out there who are struggling, I'm going to, an exercise, a writing exercise I do that I really love is when I'm scared or I'm in fear or I feel hopeless, or that, like, when I rinse it, as my little girl, I have a picture of myself like 6 or 7. And my little Mia gets to write to Big Mia. And she's like, "Dear Big Mia, I am really scared right now. I feel unsafe. I feel unloved. I feel, what if I'm feeling unheard? I don't feel like anyone's listening. I let all of my voices come out. And then I listen and I go, And then as the adult, Big Mia to little Mia, I'm like, "Dear little Mia, I hear you. I see you. I value you. I love you. You are safe. I am here now." And I find that this exercise is really grounding because it gives all your fears and insecurities and whatever comes up worth. Like, it's okay to feel all that. Let's not push it away, not spiritually bypass any of it. It's part of what's going on. So we listen and we hold that space for fear and doubt, but we don't have to let it run the show. And then the adult, we need more adults in the room right now, embodied adults going, "I got you, baby girl. I'm here. We got this." And holding that space. And it doesn't mean that I lose it or we'll lose it again, but it's a practice. So that we keep reparenting the part of ourselves that wants to go out into crazy land. And there's nothing wrong with going out into crazy land right now because crazy voices are up. And if we have a way to discharge crazy voices, doesn't mean we're crazy, but they can make us go crazy. Ding, 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 ding. Discharge them and go, "Ooh, let me listen. And what is, if I keep avoiding it, I can't change it." So yes, is it scary and is it hard sometimes? It is. It just is. I wish I could say that it isn't, but it is. And I think transformation requires a certain amount of discomfort. And that discomfort means we have to learn to work with it, not avoid it. And those boats are like getting shored up.
It's so, I mean, both of you guys saying this is resonating so much with me right now. But it's also like, to go back to the community thing, I think something that came up for me during all of this was that the isolation part of it, it's almost like you literally interpret that also as like, I have to be isolated right now, which one really reassuring thing about Zoom and all of these things is like telling us, no, we can still maintain community. We can maintain those ties to what keeps us grounded and feeling safe, and where we can share our real stuff that's going on with people that we trust. Because at the beginning of all of this, I really was kind of, I mean, I even told my husband, I was like, I can't believe it's just been like us two with each other almost every second of the day, other than like when we go to the toilet. You know what I mean? And it was like, and I realized actually after last week, I had a day where I spoke to so many people. Like I spoke to just friends in Melbourne, and I spoke to my family, and the whole day was almost just like scheduled Zoom talks. I think I spoke with you, Zephyr, after hosting a class. And I was like, oh my God, like I've actually been self-isolating even my emotions right now. And I don't have to do that. You know, that's another thing that I think is really important for people to acknowledge, which took a little bit of time for me as well, where I was like, okay, I've definitely not been speaking to people enough, you know, because you do kind of get, if you are comfortable being at home and you have the luxury to have the space where it's peaceful enough and you can work and, you know, do whatever you have to do at home, there's something in me that actually doesn't, like, it's challenging and effortful to almost seek community as well in some ways. And just energetically, you're feeling a bit drained and everything. So it's like, I realized, oh my God, I feel so uplifted, so alive now after I've spoken to a bunch of people that I love and was just able to discharge some stuff, you know. And I think that's one thing maybe to remind listeners is that if you are feeling a bit stifled in isolation, or you haven't had that outreach, like seek it out, you know, go try and get some sort of virtual thing together with your friends, or like a Zoom session, or, because yeah, that was kind of a revelation to me. I was like, wow, maybe I've just actually been taking this self-isolation thing really literally, even on like a deep emotional level, and felt quite isolated from my community when I don't need to, you know?
It's been really nice because not only that I've been teaching Zoom classes and I can connect to my students and catch up with them, and I feel like I'm a part of their experience and they're a part of mine, because we're stuck here in Morocco and I feel completely like a refugee. And I don't know when I'm going to get back, but it's so nice to see them. But I also, because I have, I've been a member of Al-Anon, which is a 12-step fellowship. They're doing Al-Anon online meetings. And it's been amazing being a part of those, because I see people that I know, but then there's people from all over the world tuning into these meetings.
Yeah.
And people I haven't seen for a while, and new people coming in because they're dealing with being affected by alcoholism or addiction. And I've been talking to a few of the other ones where their partners have now gone into Zoom sessions of AA and NA and gamblers and, all the other different kind of fellowships there are. But it's been beautiful seeing how those communities are supporting each other and offering a safe place to be able to kind of express, the thoughts, the emotions, the shadow side, but then hear other people's courage, strength, and hope in being able to manage this storm themselves. So I think it's really important. I know some people that I know don't have a lot of friends and family, and they are already isolated, hence why they come to a yoga studio, just to physically be a part of a community. And churches are different now. So a lot of people come to the yoga studio to feel that connection. But there are places now that are kind of like, I did a Zoom yoga class for morning glory, sober raving. And that's a great outlet, because you get to dance, you get to see other people who are locked up, you get to, have the good vibes, the 12-step fellowship is not for you. There's other avenues, and trying to seek Sangha, seek something that you're interested in, and finding this platform to be able to tap into it, to kind of enrich the experience and be curious about how other people are doing it, and maybe taking those tools that you like and putting them into practice. And I think that kind of shared, what works for you, what works for you, this is working for me, this is working for me. And I think that, this is a blessing in a way of technology, whereas technology before started pulling us apart and creating this separateness and creating this kind of hierarchy of like, be like the, TV celebrities, be like a TV president. We're valuing this. This is what's most important. And all of our kind of brain was being conditioned to buy more, seek out perfection, be ashamed to kind of keep falling short of not having this job title or this amount of money or this family or this way. And actually everything is so broken down where, like you were saying in the beginning, Kate, it's like we have an opportunity once we process our reaction and what is being stored and what is coming up, and finding an outlet to be able to express it and feel heard and validated and to care for ourselves and meet our needs. Then we have the space to kind of go, okay, what do I want out of this? How do I want to, go back to normal life, which I don't think nothing's going to be normal anymore. And how do we move forward?
That is bringing me some anxiety, by the way. I have to say,
having a normal life.
What is it going to be like now? Definitely.
I think that's the exciting part too, is like, it's the unexpected blessings that are coming with not knowing exactly, and also trusting, like you said, we have a space to show up and support each other. That's the great thing about Zoom, right now, is just, we have all of these opportunities to connect in a different way. Do we want to hold each other and hug each other? Of course we do. And we'll get there. But I think this is when we're in transformation time. I feel like we're in, the chrysalis, as cliched as this analogy is, or this metaphor. It's goop. If we cut it open right now and try to see how the transformation is going to look, it's just going to be a big goopy mess. It's just a bleh. So we're in the goopy, mucky, murky. And I keep saying for myself, giving myself permission and people I work with, it is not just a day-to-day check-in. It's like an hour-to-hour check-in, because we just don't know. And so much of the mind, as much as we work on our mind and staying present, it does want to go and go, am I going to be able to go on that trip I have planned in August? Or what's it going to be like? And then going, I don't know. And being in that creative void of like just the transformation of where we are. And then having the support, to come to a yoga class or a 12-step or a dance class or whatever that is, or a Zoom meetup with your friends to go, wow, we're all in this. Okay, I know that's overused. We're all in this. I'm not going to even go there. We're just all in this. That's for sure. Maybe we're not together, but we're all in it. We're in different boats. So I think there's something really powerful. And I think also going back to what you're saying, Kate, I love how, that from your perspective, it's like, I'm so self-isolating and I need this. And I think for me, because I'm and also because I'm teaching classes and I'm working with clients on Zoom. So I'm seeing and having a lot of energetic connection with people. And it's funny because I'm teaching to people in LA at Yoga Works that I can't see them because we're on webinar rather than meeting, but I see their names. I'm like, I can see you. I even say, I can see you. I mean, I can feel you. I'm like energetically. So I'm feeling this energetic connection, even though I can't touch them or even see some of them. And I think that's what's also for me being more profound and more amplified is how energetically we can stay connected, even if we can't touch each other.
Yeah.
We're so much more than sometimes we think we are. And if we trust that and work through our fears and our challenges and support each other and, a struggle, I always say a struggle is something that connects you to your dharma. It's like when you struggle with something and it's your thing and it's like over and over, if you can go through the fire and understand it, I'm just doing it in a short synopsis, and heal it, it's often connected to what your purpose is because you've embodied the growth and the transformation. And you're on the other side because you didn't go above it or around or below it. You went through it. And I think we're going through all of us in our own way. And so when you're talking about, reaching out, you needed that. For me, I've been a little more like, I don't need to reach out so much right now. I'm like, I'm going to go in my own, I'm calling it my yogi cave. I've been in my cave and I'm like listening and I'm feeling and I'm speaking. And I know this sounds really woo-woo, but this is true. I'm speaking more to my guides and my ancestors and the little girl inside of me that knew how to pray and meditate on my horse in the Native American dwelling when I was 8 or 9. Like I knew how to do that. And I lost that capacity because I bought into the group think, you need to look like this way. You need to achieve this. You need to be perfect. And I'm like, fuck that shit. And I've been working on stripping it away for a while. And now it's like, it's stripping. Like I feel like it's like, so for me, I need more of I won't say isolation, but to really go, ooh, go in, girl, go in and be
The
with that
reflection.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important to speak to everyone out there too, is you got to find and really listen to your heart and soul and your intuition right now, as much as you can, what you really need and want. I think this is giving us a greater capacity to slow down, amplify what we need to heal and understand and own. I'm not saying it's easy, but really starting to tune in. Where's my inner teacher? Where's my inner guide? To start to trust that energy more and more and more.
Do you feel like this time though, because we as teachers can't be right there with our students who sometimes rely on us a lot for physical adjustments, to demonstrate, to, kind of hold space for them in that way, where in this way, because they are responsible and accountable for their body, they have to be their own teacher a lot more. And they can't rely on someone yanking them in a pose or, telling them their foot needs to be here. They're having to really kind of connect to, actually, this feels good. This doesn't feel good. Oh, wow. And it's almost empowering students to actually take more presence in their own inner guru and inner teacher in practice.
This is what I think is the translation kind of all of personally on my social media anyway. I'm seeing so many like memes and, posters and things to be like, slow down, like just take the time, slow down. And I feel like that statement in itself can be a little bit vague, but I think that's like the exact meaning of it, Zephyr, where it's like, Slowing down just means, and what you said as well, Mia, like not a daily check-in, like an hourly check-in, and truly practicing from a place that just like feels kind of good in your body. You know, don't worry about like how you feel like you should look in a certain pose or anything like that. Like check in with your nervous system. Am I completely overwrought right now? Am I really anxious? Am I stressed out? Am I tired? Am I really exhausted? Am I overwhelmed? You know, all this stuff. And then from the actual feedback you receive from your body, practice in a way that's going to nurture what you need. You know, if you're feeling super exhausted, maybe you do need some light and upliftment, and you need to move your body or like sweat a little bit, or even go for a run. You know, like who's to say that running isn't yoga in some way? Or, you know, if you're feeling really overwrought, the deep breaths, the deep exhales, the relaxing, you know, doing something like yoga nidra or lying down and just breathing and tuning into the smoothness of your breath and everything, that can be really soothing for you. So in that way, the slowing down is forcing people to just really take ownership of like what they are feeling, and then responding to that via, or like knowing what you need from that feedback. And then in that way, like we're practicing that sense of empowerment, right? That cultivation of shaping what our finding control, I could say, I guess, in a place where you have no control really over anything that's happening right now. But coming back to that sense of like steadfast, okay, like I've got me, I can trust me. And the more and more you practice that, the more trust you have in yourself, really. And Mia, what you said, something you said gave me chills when you were like, that you're doing the webinars so you can only see their name, but you feel their energy and everything. And it's like, I was just reading something in this book, which I'm really loving, by the way. Meditation for the Love of It by Sally Kempton.
Yeah.
But where she says, you know, one of the things that keeps us so separate from each other is really just identifying with our unique individual bodies, our unique likes, our egos, our, you know, separate, the things that are highlighted in our society that keep us separate, right? Like body image, distinct bodies and everything. But in some way, what you said with that you can sense your students there, even though you can't see them, it's that concept that energetically we're all, you know, one. And I know that's getting a little bit woo-woo again, but it's like,
not anymore.
When we let go, yeah, when we let go of the identification with the body and all of those things that keep us separate, we can start to see how much we are actually all in this collective experience, right? So that you can't see someone necessarily on the screen that you're teaching, but you can feel their presence and they can probably feel your presence. And that just really reminded me of that maybe that shift in some way could be helpful for some people to stop thinking necessarily that this is just me in my body. I'm so confined in this isolation time and everything, where it's like, we are all going through this collective experience. Again, we're all in different boats because some of us, you know, have more space or more quiet or more whatever than anyone, but the collective experience is still there in some kind of way.
And I think that's the thing, is we can all energetically connect with each other. I mean, when I say we're all in, I know it's so overused, that's why we're all in this together. We're all in this together energetically. How we're going through it is totally different, for sure. But it's interesting too, Kate, because when I, you know, so I've mentored at YogaWorks for many, many years, and I've done it here. And when I work with teachers and doing hands-on adjustments, they don't do them right away. They just observe the room. They're just in there taking in the energy. And I'm always very clear. I'm like, you are never fixing someone. They are not broken. There is no forcing. And we won't get into some of the hands-on adjustments I've seen lately on social media. I'm like, what the fuck? That would not be okay ever. They are meant to inform. They are meant to enlighten or wake up, but never to be forceful or aggressive. And what I've seen sometimes, I'm like, no wonder hands-on adjustments have gotten so just as they should, because what I'm seeing is, I can't even believe it. Because I say to them, like, you must go, it is a transference of energy. They are not broken. If you're doing a hands-on adjustment, you go in there clear. They are not broken. They do not need you to be there. It is only to encourage and support. That's it. I mean, there's a few other things, but I think it's a reminder when I'm teaching in a room, I'm seeing everyone, and I've seen not just their physical bodies, because it is important. Alignment is important because you want to, you don't want to hurt yourself. But it's really the energetic alignment that it creates. And to see each other from that place, it takes off so much pressure to do a pose right or wrong. It's not about that. It's, I think what yoga keeps teaching us is how we're connecting to our energetic body and how we feel about ourselves, and what kind of in our own psychology that we need to shift. And our flexibility is so much about our mindset and how we hold that space. So I think it's been really, like you said, going back to what you said too, Zephyr, people being more accountable for and responsible for how they're holding their bodies and how they're holding that energy, and to trust what they're feeling, and to let that be enough and okay right now, because we're not in that room and we can't do the hands-on adjustments. And I try and flip through when I'm doing tri yoga, because I can see, because it's on meetings. I like these little things, but I even said to some of my students in LA who I can't see, I'm like, are you gripping your toes? Are you? Because I know some of you, I know, and it's okay. Let's just work with it, So it's kind of been fun to play with that, because I don't know everyone that's on that, on the class, but I know a lot of them. And what's even more cool is that it's international. It's like in these classes, there's people in Germany, there's people in Canada, there's people in the US, there's people in the UK. And there's just something, like, it touches me. Like, even thinking about it now, like, I get chills. I'm like, wow, this is opening a space to stand and support each other in all of our unique boats. And I do love me some Navasana, speaking of boats. But to find what does it really mean to be embodied and to be strong, and to, and I keep going strong in spirit right now. What's keeping us strong in our spirit to hold that.
And looking at it energetically that way, we stop seeing so much the separation that's keeping us in our unique, like, oh, well, you have, you're just a couple living at home, and you've got the space and the time, and you've got the, I don't know, whatever. And I'm the one that's got like 5 kids running around, and, I've got to like cook meals for everyone. And it's like, but if we take the time out of our day, which all those things are completely valid, by the way, but if we take the time out of our day to join some kind of community like that, like the tri yoga class, or the, Facebook group where we can just vent, or whatever it is, and we kind of stop seeing ourselves as these separate, different obstacles that we've got going on, and listen collectively to everyone's stuff. And again, maybe you can't see everyone perfectly. It's like you're not distinct individual bodies. It's like you can start to see that kind of one shared experience in a way. Really amazing.
Yeah. And also on the Zoom classes, I see people, and it touches me, because it pulls me out of my story, being stuck in Morocco with my family and not being able to get home. And my dog had surgery last week. But this morning I was teaching a Zoom class, and there was a single father with his son who's about to turn 7 in a few days. And he's trying to do a yoga practice, and his son is just like climbing through his legs, on top of him. There's another woman, and her dogs are all over her and under her, another one with a cat, husband coming in and out, baby needing to be breastfed. And it was, in a way, it was beautiful to see that people are prioritizing coming to yoga, but then also having to manage their real life.
Yeah.
And to have compassion, kind of seeing other people's stories. We can all share in the same feeling. We know what it feels like to feel sad and angry and sorrow and passion. But, it's that sense that we share that, but we share different stories. We share different lives, and to see it on the screen and kind of pull myself out of my own story that I tell myself, and to open up the sense of curiosity to see how other people are managing the unmanageable right now. it gave me so much kind of love, like, good on you, you know, like, I saw you, and that must be really challenging, but right now, but well done for showing up, keep practicing, you know, and they keep coming back. And that's what's really lovely, is just to see. And some people find it really hard to sit in their own skin some days. Some people feel like they can drop in, and just allowing that. And I'm like, I see you, I see it, I feel it myself. But that shared kind of, we're all, is just another way of communicating and breaking away this kind of, you have to be this yogi, and, you know, and, you know, all these kind of restrictions and limitations. Yeah, it's just like, no, we are in, you know, this is life, this is practice, this is being in a cave with little yogi nappies on, meditating at your navel. Great, but try to do that with 5 kids. Try to do that with, you know,
that's the yoga, though. That's the thing. The yoga is navigating the 5 kids and dealing with being alone and dealing with your own isolation. Like, that's where the yoga, all the work that we do on the mat, is so that we can live our yoga, that we don't have to like just talk about it and read the books. And I was talking to someone recently, and she's like, I was thinking about doing this course, and then she's like, I want to do the fucking course. I just want to go walk in nature. I'm like, that's probably going to get you more into to where you need to be right now. And like, just trusting that, you know, how to live the yoga. I think right now if you've been practicing, and not everyone has, but if you're listening to this, you probably do. This is where we get to practice and live it, and practice and live it. It's just as beautiful. We can hold joy and sorrow at the same time. We can acknowledge our own grief and sadness for the life that we are leaving behind, because we are in some ways, and the fear that it creates, and listen to that and go, ooh, there's also blessings. To hold, it's like our container that we're going through the kiln and the fire is getting bigger, so we can hold more and go, and if I can hold this for myself, I can hold this out in the world, and I can hold that space, and I don't need to be codependent with other people's struggles. They're all finding their own way, and they're building their own boat, and I don't have to sink my boat to get onto yours and make it better. It's like we can support each other, and know that struggle and sorrow is also a gateway to courage and resilience. Like, sometimes we have to go through it to build it, and to go, ooh, like you said in the beginning too, Zephyr, it's like just holding space to go, I hear you. I can't make it better. I just hear you. I'm with you. And if we can do that for ourselves and each other, then it gives us really permission to be wherever we need to be, without shame, without guilt, without trying to cover it up because it doesn't, I don't know, look a certain way, or it doesn't match the standards that we think, you know. So those old stories are dying.
So it's almost kind of like we are going through a process of, you know, like you're saying, transformation and awareness, but also a friendship. It's like starting to become a friend to ourselves, because like what Kate, you're saying in the beginning of like, we're so busy being human doings, we don't know how to be. And all of a sudden we're sitting with a human being. It's like, how do you learn how to be your own friend and listen to your needs and listen? And then that sense of almost like getting into compassion, but ultimately self-forgiveness, because like you were saying, it's like you were a little girl on the horse at 8 years old, you used to tap in. I did the same. I used to sit and naturally meditate so easily. And I would have these most amazing psychic, and it scared the shit out of me. And that fear and not understanding how to kind of contain it, I ran the other way and tried everything other than, you know, sitting and being still, because it scared me. I didn't understand it. And so it's, in a way, it's that sense of forgiving. When we get quiet enough, there's a huge amount of sadness, because we've validated that we keep on abandoning ourselves. We keep on neglecting ourselves. And when we get quiet, we have to learn how to manage those really hard feelings, the shame, the guilt, the fear, but also sadness, how to sit with the sadness and learn how to self-regulate in that kind of spiritual parenting and nurturing, and then forgiving, kind of going, it's okay, I forgive you. Zephyr, I forgive you. And in that forgiveness, like we were saying in regards to the pot, you know, the cracks. We use our practices like soft clay to mend, to tend, to reglaze, and put it back into the kiln. So when we come out to cool and rest and digest what we've gone through, we can then be more effective in being able to be of service and hold ourselves a little bit bigger, hold that light and that kind of sense of curiosity and wonderment and adventure and prosperity and abundance, in that viewpoint, with a stronger container to weather the storm. Because God knows, I've been here for 46 days. Every day there's been a new drama. Every week there's been a new theme to a drama. And it's like, I know this. This is experienced wisdom. I've been doing this for 21 years, going to Al-Anon meetings. And every week we go to a meeting, someone has a new drama. I have a new drama. But we through sharing, through experiencing, through processing, there's this way of kind of going, oh, this is just like weather. Oh, this is another storm. Oh, here comes another storm. And that's the maturity and the wisdom of kind of going, okay, I see a storm brewing. Okay, what are my tools? How can I prepare my ship? How can I get this vessel ready? Here we go. Here we go. So I think offering, you know, the three of us and also our wider community of offering the tools that yoga, psychology, this kind of way in lifestyle to prepare people for these, and hopefully have this evolutionary upgrade, because it is quite sad that we are finding ourselves in this state, and it's our own doing. It's all of the choices that we valued and our habits and what we're deeming most important that has caused this. And so it's a time in which is like, how do we go forward and really what's important? I think climate change, ways of relating to each other, practices, how do we move forward is going to be a really interesting process to witness in myself, but also with our community, our culture, and on the global level.
Definitely. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, this has been really wonderful to see you all. I mean, to see you both and spend time, even though we're so far apart, we're still energetically so connected.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we should do it again if it's fitting in the schedule.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Make it work.
Huge thank you to you guys. And I'm sure all of our communities are going to benefit from this experienced wisdom and this nattering in these US Yogini talks.
You have the experienced wisdom with the nattering, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure there's more we could digress on, but there's so much. Yeah.
So, Mia, do you want to just give a little shout out to a few little things, just to give people some resources from what you're doing, also some resources that some friends that are doing some stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I actually just put out I have a new website that's up. So it might just be easier to go to my website, which is my name, miatogo.com. I also have some stuff on there that it's, a newsletter that helps support the yoga. It's funny because the one I did at the beginning of the year was called A Season of Sad, how we need to learn how to do sad. I'm like, oops, yep. Because sad is so part of life and forgiveness. And so the summit that my friend Dr. Melody Moore is releasing on May 4th, it's called the Self-Approval Summit. And there's a lot of great people that she's interviewed. It's for free. And it's dealing with trauma, addiction, intuition, all kinds of things. Nikki Myers, Sean Korn's on there, Hala Corey, Carrie Kelly, I can't think of everyone, Ashley Turner, who's a therapist. So if you want to check it out, it'll be on my Instagram page and also on my website. Yeah. So thanks and I'm teaching at Try Yoga and Yoga Works. So obviously all virtual. Yeah.
I know, Kate, you've been reading tons of books and useful information that you've shared with me. So do you want to just share kind of resources that have been benefiting you and what you're doing with yoga?
Yeah. Well, I held up this book. I'm not sure if you're not seeing this, Meditation for the Love of It by Sally Kempton. And I highly recommend Sally Kempton in general, whose stuff I've pretty much been focusing on reading right now. Other than that, it's just been US history before 1865. and American English literature, which actually poets from the Romanticist or Transcendentalist era I found really amazing as well. But no, Sally, I think I love Sally Kempton because, first of all, she's absolutely this Shaktified figure who totally tells us to embrace all the parts of ourselves, that we can hold that in the space of ourselves with equal power, whether it's, you know, sad or happy or erotic or enclosed in a yogi cave where you have to just be alone with yourself for a while. And she's also very fluid. So she encourages this sense of giving yourself practices you need for that time, not necessarily sticking with like some meditation you've been doing for 6 months because you just got to stick with it and it's, you know, the one you should commit to. So she's very fluid in that, embracing that we need to really tune in with ourselves, and then from that feedback we practice what we need. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely recommend Tara Brach's podcast. She's doing a podcast, and she's a Buddhist psychologist. So if you need to hear something other than your own 2 ears, that's a really good podcast. Also, Brené Brown has a new podcast. It's kind of like, it's called like Unlocked or something like that, but find her on the podcast. And she's been interviewing some really amazing people. And that's a good resource to kind of fill your 2 ears with something other than. And I myself, I've redone my website as well and made it a little bit more friendly because I have so much more video content on there. So I have tons of online practices, zephyryoga.com, and I will continue with the podcast. I'll continue with these Zoom sessions. And I do have a lot of resources regards to 12-step fellowships, regards to books, recommended reading books on there as well. So yeah, I just want to say a huge thanks to you guys for showing up and doing this with me, and sharing your courage, strength, and hope in this process of this time. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to both of you for this time.
And thanks to whoever is listening.
Yeah, exactly. Big love, right?
And if you have any requests that you'd like us to kind of share about, talk about, whether it's teaching, whether it's, you know, more practical application, whether it's, you know, anything, reach out to us. We would love some ideas to just chat and offer you some more kind of bespoke US Yogini talks. Until next time, I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.